Welcome back to Ask the Surveyor, the podcast where we lift the lid on all things property related from a surveyor's point of view. I'm your host, Lee from Ashton Lee Surveyors. Today we have Luca from SCB Structures, and we're going to talk all things structural with properties. Luca brings a wealth of experience from some brilliant insight into collaboration between surveyors and engineers and how we help keep people safe, informed and confident in their properties. Thanks, Luca, for joining.
Thank you for inviting me, Lee.
So tell us a little bit about yourself and your company. Have you always lived in Essex?
Well, no. As you can see from my accent, I'm Italian. I moved in the UK 14 years ago. I started to work in London. Work for big boys and for small company. I gained my experience, and roughly 2.5 years ago my wife said, why you don't move solo, so you can set up your business, be more close to home and do what you are passionate about. So I took like a month to think, and I said yes, I can do it, and I opened SCB Structure. So we are based in Chelmsford. It's a team of nearly 5 people.
That's quick.
Yeah.
So built that quick.
Yeah. So 2 engineers, myself and Jamie.
Yeah.
I have an engineer.
Jamie.
Yeah.
Nice guy.
Have a young engineer joining in September. We're just doing all the document to get him on board. Have a cut technician, an external detailer for reinforced concrete when we have job related. And then my wife does some PA admin for us. But in the long run, I would like to bring my wife more, let's say, permanent / full-time in the business.
So it's a close-knit local family business.
Yes, yeah.
So,
and we are all passionate about properties.
I'm interested in your early years in Italy. Where was familiarity did you born?
I come from Trieste. It's a city on the border with Slovenia, so northeast. So if you look at Venice, just basically drive an hour on the right. Yeah. And I come from a family, everyone is passionate about property.
Far from Lake Garda, is that up that way?
Would say Lake Garden is 3 hours, 3.5 hours by
not
car.
Close then.
Well, depend. If you live in Italy, it's far away. But if you live in England, we used to drive.
Is it closer to Lake Como? Is that sort of?
Yeah, ish. Yeah.
Okay. So what in your region in Italy, I don't want to turn this into a cookery program, but what dishes is your region of Italy really known for?
Well, it's a mix, because we are on the border within Italy, Slovenia. Croatia is 20 minutes by car, but an hour by car there is Austria. So the food is being influenced by all this culture.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of nice food. But what I can say, one of the naughty food that we eat a lot of pork, which is not really good for our health, but we do a lot of dishes. So if you go in, apart pasta and pizza that everyone knows, there are typical, I don't know, like main dishes could be like something like with, I don't know, iota, which is a soup, tradition from my place. Then you can have, I don't know, goulash. You can have, not from my hometown, but close by, frico, which is with cheese. So there are...
come to your office one day for lunch.
Yeah.
So how did you get into structural engineering? Was it in Italy you become a structural engineer?
Yeah. So no one knows, but my mom said that when I was around 5 or 6, she was asking me what you're going to do one day. And I said, I'm going to be an engineer. And she didn't know. And she was asking, what does it mean, engineer? I'm going to build houses. And no one in my family build houses. No one is an engineer. No one is a surveyor. No one is an architect. No one is a builder as well. So no one knows how I had this.
That's different.
So I'm 50 this year and I haven't changed idea.
So all your friends wanted to be Scalacci.
Yeah.
And you wanted to be a building engineer.
I want to build houses. I love houses. Everything that is related to houses is interesting for me. I like to watch program about houses. Yeah,
I was the same when I was younger. I used to always look at buildings and fascinated by buildings and Meccano sets and stuff like that. That fascinated me.
All the houses that I lived, I decorate. I did the main works, everything. Because my grandfather I used to spend a lot of time with him, and he had a company back in the days. He was not in the construction. He was basically preparing material for the construction. But when I born, he closed the business to be a grandfather. And he always told me, if one day you want to have a company, you need to learn to do the job that your employee will do for you. So you have an understanding how they perform and if they help you to grow the business. And he always stay in my mind. So I start painting, decorating, putting tiling down on the floor to understand actually what a trade person does.
Yeah.
And
how materials work and work better with each other.
And I always help my friend. They have to move in a new house. I was helping them to make the house ready. And then one day I said, well, I want to do more in my life. And Italy it was quite a tight place for me. So I said, I want to move abroad. And I heard that in England, structural engineering is really good. So I moved over in 2011 now. So a long time ago.
Yeah, 14 years.
Yeah. So
good at maths?
Yeah, the first 1 year and 1 year, 2 years, I work on site. I went in rail, but my heart was working in property. So I moved slightly transit from big project to residential and commercial. So one of the services that we do in SCB is we help property investor. So someone want to purchase a property, other want to buy, flip or transform in an HMO, add more value. We can give a sort of idea of how much could basically be the implication from a structural point of view and a sort of indication about cost in construction. Not that I'm going to say the price, but I'm gonna explain, for example, to a property investor, if you want to rise 1 story, it's maybe much cheaper than go 1 story underground. So it's giving some indication. Yeah.
I actually, at the weekend, passed your number on to a friend. They're looking at buying a bungalow and they're asking me all these questions. If I want to build on top, how deep does the footings need to be?
Yeah.
And I said, speak to Luca, he will design you a lightweight timber.
In any country, it's not just here, even back in Italy, anything that is related to houses, there is a sort of misinformation going around. So, when you say you have a client, they said, oh, we just bought the property and we want to have a rear extension, which is quite traditional in the UK. Yeah, my builder reckoned that I need a steel beam. That is not always the case.
Is it always the case that you need a pit inspection to see how deep the footings are?
Yeah.
So even if it's light frame?
Yeah, I always do this to my client. You have your rear wall that at the moment is supported by your foundation. Now you want to make an opening. So everything that is above the opening, because there is a steel beam, is going to spread on the side wall. So the side wall is going to take much more load than before.
Right.
Then you start to have cracks. You start to have subsidence. They are not going to happen overnight, but maybe in the next 10, 15 years. So I've been calling a job. This guy had a rear extension, really nice. And he said, I want a loft extension. Okay. And he said, I don't need a steel beam because it's already in place from the previous engineer. But the previous engineer, he didn't consider the loadings, the existing foundation, and the future extension of the property 1 story in the loft. The moral of the story is where the beam was sitting on the wall were completely cracked. And the guy was really worried because he said, now I want to add the loft. So we provide, first of all, an anti-panic solution because it was really scared. And second, we designed some remedial details to fix the problem locally.
Okay, so you design solutions as well as fault finding?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's do step by step. So if a buyer wants to buy a property and they're looking at it, or we can extend it. So if they need to increase the load, they will need, first of all, would they need an architect first?
Well, first of all, when you buy a property, I would always recommend for the cost go for a full survey report. Because then you come in place and you can give your opinion on everything. Because you're gonna, because you're gonna really look. When I see a report like level 1, there is a huge difference with the level 3.
Yeah.
And I can have much more detailed information, even on material, and a lot of information about the history of the building, which are really helpful, not just for me, but even for the architect. Then I would recommend when you take the decision of extending a house, don't just have your architect on the side. We offer a consultation fee because recently a couple of projects, they had huge renovation, so a massive extension. We did all the structural engineering input, but when they went to price the job, was over the moon. So I always say to client, for the future, not that someone doesn't do extension every year or every 2 or 3 years, but there are a lot of people that buy property, extend the property, sell, and then move in a bigger property and do the game again. So all my repetitive clients, I always say, have a builder, have an engineer, have an architect. We have a chat all together. We look what you want to do, and at least you have an idea of your cost before you go ahead.
With my friend Paul, his situation, so he's looking at this chalet bungalow, he wants to build on top. What would you advise him to do first? Get a structural engineer to come along and dig a pit? Or would you need the architect to design it first to see if it takes that load in? Or would you do a pit inspection, then tell them what loading it could take from experience?
From experience, usually the superstructure or the floor that we're going to build above is going to be in timber.
Right, okay.
So it's a light material, easy, cheaper than traditional. It's going to be quicker, and it's going to give more space above because the wall is going to be thinner.
So there's no quick answer to say if it's 300 mil, it's okay. If it's 400 mil, it's okay. Or if it's 300 mil, definitely not. I mean, footings now are a metre above, aren't they? Yeah. Modern footings. But
modern footings, anything that is being built, I would say, after the Second World War is fine. Okay. Up to a limit, because they have proper footing. Before, we didn't have proper footing in concrete. And possibly the property has been already subject to a sort of movement.
Yeah. There's an old myth saying that they don't build properties like they used to.
Yeah.
Certainly with footings, they build them properly now, where they didn't. I've seen pit inspections where it runs from 150 mil to 300 mil.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still standing, but you certainly want to put additional load on it, would you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's keep it a simple question here. What is the difference between a building surveyor, me, and a structural engineer, you?
I believe you look at the property for how it's been built and the condition. I don't look at how the property looks like. If the wall is paint or not paint, or is, I don't know, the wallpaper is falling down, I don't care. What I look is the structure itself. So the structural engineer, let's say that the house has a human body. I'm the person responsible for the skeleton. Yeah. So I don't look color of the eye, or if your hair are long or short. I look if your bones can take the loadings.
So we are the surveyor, me, is the doctor, and if I see anything untoward, I will, like the doctor would, further investigation to a specialist, back specialist or...
Yeah, most of the time where I get involved in properties being purchased or sold through a surveyor, through your job, is when they found the cracks in a property. So there are different cracks. We can talk about cracks for the next, 6 months and not even finish all the reason why there are cracks. But I always recommend to investigate. Yeah. Even because nowadays, like insurance or mortgages, they start to be more alert about cracks. Because the first thing that they said, they pressed the button and said, red light is a subsidence. It's not always the case.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you are trying to remortgage the property and there is a cracks.
Yeah, I mean, not
It's
every crack
challenging.
is serious.
No, exactly.
Also, lintel rotation is a good majority of cracks in buildings.
Yeah.
But what...
Cracks are like wrinkles.
So
Sooner or later you have a wrinkle.
Keep it... ordinarily, a subsidence crack would be stepped and it would be wider as it goes up. Is that right?
Yes, but I always say to my client, if you can put your finger through, then you start to worry up to a limit. If you cannot pass your finger through, don't worry too much. We can find out. In any case, even if you can put your finger through or even all your hand through, you can still fix. But if you can put a finger, it's going to be much more costly than if you can't.
So we recommend anything 5 mil and over should be investigated.
Yeah, it should.
Which 5 mil doesn't sound a lot, but it is a wide crack, 5 mil. Yeah.
It is. Yeah. Especially if you don't know why it's happened.
I've recommended you further investigation on surveys, and it's been unsupported chimneys.
Oh, wow.
Which is a common one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Where they take the chimney breasts out, but they don't take the chimney stack, and it's often shared with the neighbour. And they prop it up with timbers. What's the worst?
Yeah.
You've seen some worse?
Oh, I saw even...
scary stuff?
Oh, scary stuff. So I saw timber. I saw brackets, but not even gallows brackets, like brackets from B&Q or any other place.
Like shelf brackets.
Then I saw corbelling. So just to clarify, no one uses chimney anymore in a property. Yeah. Get rid of the chimney, give you much more space, but the local authority now, they are really worried how the chimney has been removed. So the right things to do is to have a structural engineer, an assessment, and have a steel beam.
Yeah. I know Southend Council are saying that now, aren't they?
Yeah. So there is no specific law, but every single council now, they are taking a step back and say, if there is no an assessment, it could be dangerous.
Yeah, but I mean, because a lot of builders, they just take away the chimney breasts and they don't know if it's been done on the other side. So if it's a shared chimney, gallows brackets is not enough for both sides, is it?
Gallows brackets is not accepted anymore.
On even if it's one side?
No.
Okay.
I'm not going to explain now on the podcast the physics, but fundamentally push the wall out.
Yeah. So what we see is that the timbers are transferring the weight onto the ceiling joists, which are only designed to take plasterboard and a little bit of weight.
Yeah. But the loft, not always in an area where people look after or they go often. So if you have an old roof, sometimes you have leakage. If the timber became rotten and is supporting your chimney, you can have a nice surprise.
I've seen timbers bending.
Yeah. But back in the days, like let's look at construction in the UK, the health and safety, every single day, months, week, year, they improve the rules and they start to be more strict. So there is a website called Cross. It's basically a safety for construction. So as a structure engineer, I'm registered, and every month I get newsletter, and there are all the near miss or disaster that happen across the country or the world because health and safety was applied as it should. The engineer didn't design following the code, or the builder has built something without an engineer on board. There are a lot of bad things happening.
Yeah, I mean, builders are, we've been doing that for years. It's been fine.
Yeah.
And that's the...
people say...
the attitudes, what are dangerous.
People say, there are a lot of builder cowboys. I wouldn't point the finger always to builders, because there are even good builders. I work with Steve, he's a good builder, and Steve's every time said, look, it's no matter area of expertise, anything I do, I pick a phone, I take a photo, or I pay your fee, and you come on site. And that's the easy way, because he said, I don't want to be in a position where my company is going to go in financial trouble because I've taken initiative without asking the opinion of an expert. Yeah. But, there are even bad engineers.
So to keep it simple to the viewers and listeners, the surveyor myself will go along, see a potential, or see an issue that I feel needs further investigation.
And they should be like you with nice photo where when I get the report, it's not a stamp like that I cannot even zoom on the screen. Nice photo with a description. So something
and I
that's
will send
clear.
you additional photos as well, won't I? So, and that's really helpful if surveyors do that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of surveyors don't even take photos, but
and not even video they take, anything.
No, I know, but we're good.
Yeah.
All good surveyors should take
we
lots
use a
of
drone,
photos.
for example. When we do chimney, we survey the whole roof and the chimney with a drone.
Yeah, so you'll see the structure issue, you'll calculate the weights, and then you'll come up with a remedy.
Yeah.
Once the remedy's done, do you go back to inspect it to sign it off, or is that to do with
usually
building regulations?
Usually it's the builder or the building inspector.
Building inspector,
I can, if the client is willing to call me back on site.
Another easy question for you. What is a structural calculation?
Well, structural calculation is fundamentally take physics, math, and the code of practice and put all things together. So, for example, when you design a floor, people think that it's just design the timber element, the joist that is going to form the floor. In reality, the code is quite specific. There are additional laws to be considered and the safety factor. And sometimes when I talk with client, architect or builder, I said, do I really need to be so deep for that joist? Yeah, the code has changed, especially for timber. Because the timber now we have the Euro code, which doesn't mean that is for Europe. It does just mean that it's been developed in Europe, but now is expanding across the globe. And they take in consideration the timber, not just now, but what is going to happen to the timber in the next 30, 40, 50 years. So if you look at some old houses in the UK done in timber floor, the floor is still there, but it's bent. Because over time, the deflection went over the limit.
All right.
Yeah. So you have maybe in the plasterboard cracks or other stuff. Nowadays, the joists that we install in new houses or extension are much deeper because they consider that the client is not going to change the floor or have any remedial work in the next 50, 60 years.
I thought timbers are increased because of the quality of timber nowadays is the growth the growth spurts are a lot, growth spurts, I don't know if that's the right word, but the cycles of the growth is a lot wider and it's not as strong. I've looked at old buildings with softwood and it almost looks like hardwood when you look on the end of it. They're a lot tighter. The growth was a lot less.
Well, we take in consideration what is called in structural engineering live load. So every building can be your office space, your house, a warehouse, I don't know, a cinema. Under the code of practice or Eurocode or national annex or building regulation, they go under a sort of classification. So in a house, there are two ways to look at the live load, but in generally speaking, the code said you should allow 200 kg per square meter, which include yourself, friend coming over, furniture, a stud wall partition, because the code says we don't know what is going to happen in that house or in that floor, and we want to make sure that the house is safe for the next 50, 100 years, that the house is going to stand up. Now, if we go back 80, 90 years ago, they didn't consider 200 kg per square meter. It was much less.
Yeah.
But we learn from experience.
Yeah.
It's like unfortunately, the Grenfell Tower in London.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, is a lesson learned, and now we are trying to move forward. So, of course, the cladding will be maybe more expensive, more complicated. The same is going to happen in houses, but it's just to make people safe.
Needs to be changed.
Yes.
Wider claddings, long shorts.
Yeah.
And it's so many mistakes was made on that.
Yeah.
It was the perfect disaster in a way. And building regulations will develop from that, obviously, and the first building regulation was made from the Great Fire of London.
Yeah.
So that was the first ones devised. And with loadings, the things I've seen is a waterbed on the first floor. I don't know. I mean, you would know how much a waterbed would weigh, a double waterbed or king size waterbed. The water loading is unbelievable. And also, I've seen where they've increased. They've got extensions, so they need more. There's more bathrooms, so they increased the tank.
Mm-hmm.
And in the airing cupboard, they've got big tanks now. They're non-vented ones, and they haven't allowed for additional load. And I do see that with some of the plumbers have put in dissing plumbers, but I'm not sure they're always aware of the additional loadings when they stick these big tanks in the lofts. They're sitting on ceiling joists.
If you have a new construction, the code allowed, but if you have let's say, an old house, doesn't matter how old, it should be checked. So recently I went to see a country house. So in the middle of nowhere, it's beautiful location. And the lady that owned the property said, you see, I have a concern. When I'm in my living room and I look up, on the right there is the bathroom and on the left there is my newborn baby room. Okay, but if you look at the joists, which are all exposed, they look a little bit wonky. They were bent, but the house is like 100 years old. And what I notice is there are no fixing detail like we have nowadays. So the timber is all shaped and just like a jiggle. The bearing was missing 50%. And I said to the lady, do you mind if I go an inspection upstairs? Yeah. The baby room was full of furniture and plenty of stuff inside, clothes. And the bathroom, she had a bath with hydro massage. Massive, heavy. And I said, when did you put all this stuff in? When we move in? I said, well, looking at your ceiling and how it's bending, I would basically strengthen all the joist. Yeah, but it's gonna change the but the joist at the moment are missing 50% of bearing. The joist has been there nearly 100 years. We cannot control if it's gonna deflect more.
But furniture was all timber and lightweight, and now it's people putting more and more stuff in their houses, aren't they?
But she said when we have the full bath and the engine is working, and my husband in the living room, he can hear some creak in the floor.
Really?
And I said, well, honestly with you, I said I would really, I don't say remove, but I would strengthen the floor. So we provide the remedial these days for her to strengthen the whole ceiling. We try to match with something that look historical. Yeah. But we had to strengthen for safety. I mean, the joist look like a banana. And I said, it should be straight.
Yeah, nothing against bananas, though, eh?
Yeah.
So what is the most common issues you see when you call to a residential property? We've mentioned a couple, haven't we? Loading. We've seen chimneys removed. Another one commonly that I refer to you is
I would say
leaning chimneys.
Yeah, but I think the common is let's say the basic is DIY. Everyone can do DIY in terms of painting or doing small work inside of their property. But if they start to touch the structure, I would recommend a chat with the structure engineer. It doesn't mean to be myself, but I would have a recommendation. I saw people doing stuff that they shouldn't do. Yeah. And when they called me, I said, oh, this is happened. Oh, what do you think? Oh, this wall disconnect. But my husband did the extension of the porch. Yeah, did he put tile? Did he put a foundation? Yeah, he put some foundation. What does it mean, some foundation? He put a little bit of concrete there. Okay. Or some people plant a tree. Tree are lovely. Where I'm coming from in Italy, I come from the countryside, so massive garden, plenty of tree. But 90% of the country is on a clay soil. So the tree is like a sponge, absorb and release water. So it shrink and swallow the soil, which affect the foundation. So it push the property up and down. So if you plant, I don't know, a willow.
So the clay underneath the footings or against the footings? Or
Both. So NHBC in chapter 4.2 is quite specific about building foundation near tree, and it give you all the guidance. It's not complicated. There are some formula to use, but take in consideration the distance from the house to the tree, the type of tree, if the tree has passed the mature high.
Type of tree in the sense of if the roots go straight down or they spread.
Exactly, Then the water absorption, then the plasticity of the soil, so the characteristic of the soil when is with or without water. And when we put all this on together, fundamentally return the minimum depth of the foundation. But because this improvement, it came in the last, 30 or 40 years, if your house is 50 or 60 years old and you plant a tree close to the house, after 10, 15 years, the tree has grown and has been pushed your foundation. And you can have heaves, you can have any problem or crack related in your property.
Yeah. A friend of mine who deals with trees and looks after trees, inspects forests and stuff, works for the forest industry. He said what you can see out of the ground is mirrored in the ground.
Yeah.
Root-wise.
Yeah. And then another recommendation is don't chop your tree without telling a structural engineer. I went to do a job, I've been engaged by the client, massive rear extension, a beautiful garden. And when I did my fee proposal, I look on Google Earth because it's the easiest, and I saw plenty of trees. So in my fee proposal, I said there is plenty of tree from the aerial view, which was dated 2023, so let's say recent, and we will need to factor this in doing the foundation. And when I went to the survey, there was just grass. I said, where are all the trees that I can see from Google Earth? Oh, we chop everything. Okay, do you have any photo? No. Do you know how far they were from the house? No. So I need to follow the NHBC. If there is no evidence, you need to use the worst scenario. And that can cost you a lot of money, because building control, we use Google Earth. And they will come on site and say, there's plenty of tree, what's the foundation strategy?
They used to use planes, didn't they? But now they've got Google Earth.
Yeah, because there have been a lot of claim. The number of claim in the last, I would say, 20 years, it went more than double. So insurance, they don't want to pay. They want to make sure that there's been...
Insurance companies are especially interested in trees closer than 5 metres.
Yeah.
As a surveyor, what tips can you give? What distance should we be looking at and reporting a tree?
Well, I would say up to 30 meters from the property.
30
they can have
meters, really?
Yeah.
As long as that.
So, don't remember the species of tree exactly, but I think the worst case scenario, you need to consider 3 times the total height of the tree as an influence.
Okay. Yeah. I think we learned at college, but I think that might be a bit that I forgot.
So when, for example, I design new development, there are 2 information. The first one is the arboricultural report, which is telling me exactly which tree are in the area or in the proximity of the house. And then I have the planner coming with the tree that they want to plant. So then I do basically an interpolation and said, okay, this is the minimum requirement. However, is planting to put a bigger tree, so which is the worst scenario, or is planting just a bush, which is less worst scenario.
I remember the diagram now.
Yeah.
We always report all trees, not the little ones, but anything over.
I mean, it's important because building control, they can come back and say, okay, we don't have enough data, you need to pile your extension. And piling the extension is really costly, and you don't want. You rather have a strip footing or a raft.
What is the simple? What do they do? What do they advise to do when you got clay and trees? Is it increase the footings, and often is it piling?
It basically there are 3 options.
The width and the depth.
Well, you have three options. The first one is to have a trench foundation, which is like typical for any house. Then you can have a pile solution, which is quite expensive. It's not about the pile itself, but it's how you build the pile, because it always is on the back of the house. So if there is no access, it's going to be quite,
one over.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's challenging. And the third one is a raft, which implicate to removal quite a bit of soil and replace with good granular material. There are specifications, but again, is piling and raft are much more expensive than a traditional trench foundation.
So advice to buyers would be, if you in planning, you've seen a nice house and you want to build extensions, have a look at trees and see how many trees there are, and it could be, it could double the cost.
Yeah.
Triple, treble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And check what is the ground, because in some area of the country we have gravel. So if you have gravel in your soil, the tree doesn't make any influence.
Okay. But Essex and London, 99%?
It's 99% is clay.
It's clay.
It's clay. In this part of the world, like London, Essex, Kent, Surrey, all around the Norwich area is clay.
Deeper into Kent is chalk.
Yeah, well, let's say the worst is you need to dig 2.5, 2.6 meter in the ground to do your foundation.
So is clay considered the worst ground, is it? Because of the swelling and shrinkage?
If there are three.
Right, okay.
If there aren't, no.
It's together is
if there are no trees, is a meter in the ground, which is not expensive, and any contractor can do for a reasonable price.
So for the home buyer, let's do some jargon busting. Okay. What is a footing?
So footing is traditional footing is basically a wide strip, 600, 450 millimeter deep, 1 meter roughly, full of concrete and what normally people call foundation.
So it's a hole in the ground, trench, filled with concrete to support the house.
Yeah. It spread the load of the house into the ground.
And what is piling? I nearly said what is piles, but we're not doctors, so what is piling?
Piling is, imagine like a tube in concrete under your foundation. So your house, rather than transfer the load on something shallow, like the trench that we just explained, it transfer the load on pile, which is a series of imagine like under your house, like some pen.
Like spikes, pins, spins.
Yeah, which they basically transfer all the load to a deeper level.
So in simple terms, what is a structural calculation?
The structural calculation is a mix of physics, math, and code of practice.
So you need to work out the weight of
the material
being supported.
Yeah. Loading that we need to consider, like in a house, we need to consider people, furniture, if it's a public space,
water beds.
Yeah.
TVs, anything really
Yeah, or if we build something like big, like can be a train station, for example, we need to consider the equipment. So we will need to consider that will be someone passing with a machine, 8-ton, 10-ton machine, doing the job or preparing for the job. So we need to take in consideration that load.
Even the baths in the garden, not baths in the garden, what they call jacuzzis.
The jacuzzi.
Even some of them are massive, and the loading on them.
Yeah.
So you need concrete bases, and
you
wouldn't stick them on top of a lawn or something like that.
No, but a lot of people stick in their bedroom en suite if they have a massive house.
Oh, okay.
So what we do, for example, I've been just appointed this week. A lady is she's working in the BBC radio industry. And she wants a studio in the house. So in one house, she wants to put her recording studio. So she sent me all the equipment and all the weights, which is above a normal traditional houses or residential loading. So I will be there in 2 weeks' time to inspect the floor and provide all the remedial works for the joist to take the loadings.
Is there any simple checks that home buyers can do, like chimneys? I referred to you some chimneys that really lean. So if you're looking at a chimney, when do you think, I mean, some chimneys do lean in, it's not a problem.
Yeah.
But if they're tall and thin, and they lean,
yeah. So because I would say 80% of the houses have a chimney that has been somehow touch, modify, or partially demolished or totally demolished. When you look at the property and you want to buy a property, inspect it or at least put your head around in the loft.
Yeah.
Don't avoid
a lot
the
of estate
loft.
agents don't allow that,
No.
but 'cause health and safety. But that's why it's important to have a survey.
Yeah.
When you're looking from outside, a surveyor tip, if it distinctively looks like it's leaning,
yes,
that's when you need to further investigate, don't you? And the taller
as well.
And sometimes it's the pointing where it expands and it makes it lean one side.
Yeah, exactly.
Frost one side, and TV aerials is another one.
Yeah.
Where they strap the TV aerial on top of the tall chimney, putting extra load in with winds and stress and satellite dishes.
Or the dishes, the satellite dish, is not heavy, and people say, but it's not a lot of load, Luca, on the chimney. Yeah, but we are not worried about vertical load or gravity load. We are worried about the wind pressure.
Yeah.
That catch much more wind. And when you apply the math, the physics, and the code of practice, you will be surprised how much make a difference over a chimney.
So it's best to move them down, fix them lower down the chimney.
Lower down.
Or onto a wall.
Yeah. That's why when people say, why I cannot have gallow brackets? Because the gallow bracket doesn't do the job when you consider wind. That's why it's better to have a steel beam.
Going on to wind and weathers, when we have snow on roofs, that's why we have extra supports in roofs, like your struts. Yeah. So in an event of a foot of snow, how much loading would that lid?
Yeah, and what people should look is when they have installation of solar panel. So if they have already panel installed, or if they are planning to install panel, to have a structure survey. Because the panel nowadays are light, but they form like a sail. So like when people sail on a boat, basically the wind pressure shake the roof.
So it looks sort of like lifts it as well,
Yes,
is it?
then press, yeah.
The worst thing I've seen solar panels, nothing to do structurally, is pigeons roosting underneath.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like tens of them in there.
Yeah, they should have a net and protect the area around and below the solar panel. But
I see that. I've seen that. Yeah. Probably every 1 out of 2 solar panels, I see that annoying. You see them cooing all day and you're trying to write reports. I couldn't handle it. So one of the things I've seen with roofs is I inspected a property, and the guy was a keen railway modelist, models, and he had the train track running all the way around the loft. Yeah, I mean it was glorious, but he cut all the struts, and the roof was starting to bend in slightly, and a foot of snow once every every 10 years or what we have. That additional load in the snow, that's what people don't account for. Yeah. And what is a cubic metre of snow? Probably 2.2 tonne.
Well, it depends. Like the normal use load that we consider is 60 kg per square metre.
See, that's.
But it depends where we are in the country.
You're talking science now.
Well, it depends where we are in the country. There are different zones with more or less. So in Scotland, you cannot really use a low number, where in south of the UK, which is,
because of the regularity of it.
Yeah.
Right.
So, but it's not about the snow. People need to consider maintenance.
I'm 50. I've probably only seen deep snow halfway up your shin about twice. That's not really deep, is it? In Scotland, Scottish won't say no. It's got to be past your knee. In simple terms, Luca, when should a homeowner phone you, give you a call because they're concerned? What should they be concerned about at what early stages?
Usually I get a call or an email after you have been surveyed the property. And the first things I always say, can I have a copy of the report? And if there is any additional photo or video, please just email or WhatsApp.
Yeah.
So I will do a desk study, understand the situation. Then I usually call the client or potential client, discuss the next step, and then I prepare a fee proposal.
What if they're not buying a property and they've been living in their property for 20 years? And what things should they be looking for? And what some of the stories that you can tell us that you've been called out by a homeowner, and you've seen some near misses or some disasters?
Well, I recently done a structure report for a couple. They went retired, they sold their businesses, and they decide to step down and have a smaller house because all the kids move out. They bought the house early 2000, like 2002, and they've done some extension and modification. And for all of them, they had the track record. But when they went to exchange, the solicitor picked up a small extension on the side of the main building done in 1994. And basically they stopped the chain asking, do you have a justification for that? And the current owner, he said to the solicitor, it was before I bought the property, so why you're asking me? Because now apparently you are responsible. So in this case, what we do, what we call
You mean structural sign-off?
Yeah. We do what we call an emergency service. So within a week, we try to do the survey, do the report and help, because if the chain fall through, there will be more than one family involved. So I've done a few of those since January.
That's a really good service because chains are under stress, and it always gets to they find something always at the end of the chain when everyone's waiting to exchange. I've had a couple of conveyancers locally said, Lee, do you know any structural engineers? And they're all booked up for 4 weeks, and that's a disaster to a chain that is ready to. When they phone you on a Tuesday and they're ready to exchange on the Friday and complete the following Friday. And
then when people buy and sell a property, they should take a surveyor on board that has been recommended. And I'm going to explain why. So I got an inquiry through the website, and the lady said, can you give me a call? And it was about a chain falling through for cracks in the garage. So I called her, and she was in tears. And the surveyor said that the house is falling down. I said, hold on, how is possible that in a report is written falling down? I said, can I have a copy of the report? So I got the report, I read the report. The house has been built in 1988. Now, 1988 is a recent construction, so it's a modern standard construction. The house cannot fall down unless there is a severe problem or the contractor completely misses something. And I said, the lady, can you send me a photo on WhatsApp or through email? I look at the photo and I said, this is not serious. It's a crack, but it's not serious. And it's in the garage. So what's happened, if you notice in modern construction, where you have the external part of the house facing the weather, and we have or brick or we have render. And the reason is because brick resists water and aggression from the weather, and the same render. So if you have exposed block, it basically is not protected from the weather. So if you go in a normal or new garage, you will see that block is just inside the garage, but it's brick outside.
Okay. Yeah.
But brick and block, they have a different thermal coefficient of expansion.
Yeah.
So in simple terms, when there is cold or hot, they expand differently. And in between the block and the brick, you have cracks. But they are thermal expansion cracks.
Differential movement.
2 millimeters, 1 millimeter is not serious. It's totally fine. But the solicitor stopped the chain. So the lady was...
from the surveyor's report, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, well...
So I ran on site because she was crying too much. And I said, listen, this afternoon someone cancel a booking. I can come and have a look.
Yeah.
So the lady
without
was
bashing the corporate surveyors. They have to do so many
but
every day. They shift any risk to anyone. It doesn't matter.
but the lady was
Sometimes,
8 months and 2 weeks pregnant,
Oh wow.
alone at home.
Yeah.
And I said, how can you say to someone that is in that physical condition carrying a baby, say the house is falling down? Just say there is a crack in the report. It should be looked before you sell the property.
Yeah.
So the solicitor they got the report, they stopped the chain, and she said, I have 2 weeks to exchange and get in a new property, otherwise the chain fall through. And I said, listen, it's a really simple task. I come today, I did the survey, and 3 days after she had the report. It's been a rush for me because I had to work hard for the 3 days, prepare the report, the photo, link the code and explain. But I got a Google review, and she was so happy because she had been able to sell the property and move in a new property.
That is a service that I haven't heard of. So, yes, everyone listening, SCB structures.
Yeah.
So what is the remedy? It's something was moving all the time. A mastic joint would it? Because if you fill it with cement, it just fall out, will it?
Well, if below 5 millimeters, you can just fill. A good contractor can just fill. If it's a thermal expansion, it's going to happen again. It's a thermal expansion. I wouldn't worry. I have in my property.
It's them sort of stories, experiences that buyers have, why it gives our industry a bad name, and it puts people off having surveys.
Well, people try to save penny in any direction.
Yeah, at the moment I get that,
and I understand but the house is something. I mean, I would say between 50 and 70% of the population, they buy one house in their life, and they put all their saving for a time that is between.
The average time is 11 years.
Yeah,
I move a lot. I leave a lot more than that.
So, but if you buy a house, just one house in your life, you can have a mortgage up to 30 years. It depends what is your finance, and for 30 years you're gonna pay.
The advice I give is you wouldn't buy a car without an MOT and drive your family around in it.
Exactly.
So why buy a house and let your family live in it if you haven't checked it for safety?
And it costs much more.
And health issues and so on and so on. And it costs
a lot.
A car, but in Essex, what's the average price? 400,000 up to millions. So it's what they say. Around 15 years ago, when the last research, 2 in 10 buyers had a survey.
Yeah.
Now it's 1 in 10. And I really do think that's the reputation gained by surveyors spoiling sales to overprotect their PI insurance. And I've talked about this through the few episodes, and it is a real problem. I know the RPSA going to try and do something about it, and talking to the governments and so on. So, the more surveys, the more problems we find, the more work for you, yeah?
Yeah, well, I'm allowed to talk about pricing.
Yes, we can.
Okay, so in terms of this kind of services relating to structural issue like cracks movement or
So how much does a typical structural report cost?
Well, we offer 2 services. One is the structure report, which is can be 30, 40, 50, 60 pages. It depends the dimension of the houses and the problem.
Yeah.
And is £975 plus VAT, which is quite common in the industry. It's just fixed fee for us. But sometimes if it's not needed, I always advise my client, if you need a legal piece of paper saying that your house is safe, we offer a letter. We call summary letter. It's 4 or 5 pages. There is 1.5 page description, link to the code, and there are photos which are linked to the description. And is valid for purchasing or selling the property, or is fine for remortgaging, unless the mortgage or the solicitor required a full report, but most of the time the summary letter is totally fine and is £325 plus VAT. So
Which is cheap.
it's much cheaper and it still give you the result that you want.
I should put your prices up, but no. I mean that's good value when it's something, when it's a massive investment.
Yeah, exactly.
Unless you're into buying yachts.
Well, when we buy a second-hand car,
you know, a house is going to be the most expensive thing you buy.
Yes.
Unless you're buying one of your yachts or one of your yachts.
No, but
get a survey on them.
Do you? Oh, right. Yeah.
You won't get insurance on them and do a survey.
Okay. How much is a survey on a yacht?
It depends. Cowboy wants 50-60 quid.
See, that's not the idea, is it? That's just tick a box, right? Yeah, and get your insurance.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's not promote that.
No.
So, how much is typically a yacht survey? I suppose it depends, like on house survey. It depends on age. Like a house survey, price depends on size, age, location. I mean, you're not going to charge the same amount of money for a one-bedroom flat in Clacton and you are in Knightsbridge. You know, one's 5 million and one's 150 grand. So there has to be a price difference.
Well, where our price go up and are more bespoke is when we do structural survey in commercial or public space, because there are maybe restriction or the floor area is so big they need maybe 2 engineers, maybe more than one day. There is where the report changes. Maybe it's much bigger. There are much more problems.
So do you do commercial as long as
I do
well
commercial as well. Yeah.
As residential.
Yeah.
So going back to your origins, Italy.
Yeah.
What is the biggest difference in properties? You know, residential. So my experience of going to Italy, I've been to Milan, I've been to see Lake Como, I've been to the Mirrors, been to Venice. There's lots of render and beautiful colours, and a lot of fancy render. I'm trying to think the word of it. Oh, it's going to slip my mind.
Well, let's say that the main difference, let's say from a structural point of view,
stucco render. Sorry.
In Italy or in Europe, if you want to modify your house, if you want design a new house, if you want to build a house, you need to have a chartered structural engineer on board and a chartered architect on board, which they need to prepare document, drawing and calculation and submit to the local authority. In the UK, you don't need anything. You can build the house yourself, do the calculation yourself, doing the drawing yourself and submit. If building control is satisfied and they are going to sign off, you will get approved.
So what's the big subtle differences between the properties? Not going too deep into technical, but would you say windows, the way they're built, because it's hotter in Italy? Well, I think it is. Every time I've been there, it's been hotter.
It's much hotter, well, material are different. We don't use timber. We don't have the timber that we have here, for example. So it's all solid. The floor is solid. It's concrete and...
so buildings notoriously use local materials. So
there are some timber construction, but much more in the mountain area. The timber that we have here is because we grow timber in the UK, but we buy a lot of timber from Finland. So Finland is the big export of timber for all North Europe, or Sweden as well.
I mean, regions in England changed construction because, especially because transport was expensive, so they couldn't shift stone from Scotland to Essex and stuff like that. So that's why Essex is lots of buildings that are clay bricks.
Exactly.
So Italy has lots of render.
Yeah, and by the way, if you buy or sell a property, as an average, when from the beginning, when the house has been built, when the house is demolished, usually in the UK, houses are structurally modified up to 5-6 times. So when you buy a property, which is not a new property, check everything that's been done as much as possible.
5 or 6 on average modifications to every house. Yeah, that's interesting.
I went in Brentwood for I would say, a wealthy family. They bought a nice house, really looking good house, like a showroom. And they said, the house is old, but we have done some few works, and even the owner before, and now we want to do an extension and a loft conversion. So before you come, can you look at the property? And this is what I traditionally do. So before to visit a property, I go especially on Google Maps, or on Google Earth, and go back in history and see if the house has, let's say, changed. But in this particular case, because the owner basically gave me a warning, I went on the planning portal. There was 5 applications for a structural alteration. Now, there were few drawings, no structural calculation. And the first thing I said, yes, I can design, but your builder will need to come around, open up walls to determine which steel beam has been installed, what's the characteristic of the steel beam, what's the characteristic of the padstone, what's the characteristic of the foundation, because this house has been modified 5-6 times. And they were worried because they just spent £50,000 to redecorate all the house.
That's raised another question in my mind.
Yeah.
Simple to you, but not to every home buyer, because I get asked this a lot. A lot of people get mixed up with planning consent and building control consent. What is the difference?
So planning, well, we should introduce as well PD, permitted development. So permitted development is a way that allow people to extend their property or modify that property under a certain dimension and limit without go through planning. Planning is when you need...
Sorry, you do need planning to prove you don't need planning.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So planning is
that's where a lot of mistakes are made, because people think, it's done within dimensions of the portal. I don't need planning, but you need planning to prove you don't need planning.
Yeah. So under PD, you don't need the planning.
Yeah.
But you need building control, and you need to satisfy the code of practice. So it doesn't matter that it's under PD. Yeah. It still need to stand up, because if it's gonna collapse, and when people said, "Oh, how many times you have seen a house collapse?" I said, you just need to go online, look at the health and safety, and you will see how many houses have partial failure every single month.
Actually, because people don't know there's a difference, so they go ahead thinking they don't need planning.
Yeah.
Essentially, you still need, the
and without going too complicated, now from a health and safety point of view, there is the PD role, which is called principal designer role. Usually it's taken from the architect. The architect covers the head of PD in a house extension or in a new building or in a conversion. So because the architect follow the client from A to Z, they basically need to document everything that is done during construction and pre-construction, and hand over to building control or local authority, or sign off that the building has been extended or modified as it should. So a sort of police role. And most of the clients, they don't understand, and they said, but I'm doing under PD. No, it's fine, but doesn't mean that you can do whatever you want.
What stage has this got to be done? The application for building control?
Well, usually...
And you need building calculations. So if you make an application, so if you prove that you don't need planning, you still need to go through the building control.
Yeah, so a good architect is going to organize everything for the client.
Yeah.
And when I get appointed, they pass all the information. So this is going to be the builder, if there is already a builder. This is going to be building control. This is his name, email, and phone number. And from there, we take over, and basically we deal building control.
I see lots of builders just cracking on, tell the customer, we get sign off at the end.
Yes.
And they're happy with what they got.
No, it's happened to me last week.
And then they forget, don't bother, that all the motivation of it's gone, because it's already built.
Last week on Monday, I've been appointed for a building that halfway through building control turned on site, and he said, where are the calculations? And they were installing the roof. So they request basically an engineer on board. I've been appointed because I've been recommended, and they know that I can do this type of services, and I have to go through all the builder information, all the photo that they took during the works, and justify everything. And yesterday I got an email, and this is concerned me about how the works are done. Someone built a house, and a year later building control asked for calculation. They didn't have no drawing, no architect, no structural engineer.
They just built a house
and
from
they built
freehand.
a house. So, yeah, because they had a massive garden, and they built a second house with a children playroom area, quite big, and for the parents that are coming to an end. So rather than leave them alone, they can live with them in the same land.
End of life support.
But the house has been used for a year, and there are no calculation. And
People
by the way,
crack on, don't they?
They
can't-
crack on.
yeah.
They put the foundation 1 meter deep, and all around there are big trees.
Trees and clay.
And I said, "Have you done anything for the tree during the foundation?" No. Okay, I send a certain point in life of the building, the building's gonna have some movement, and the insurance is not gonna pay.
The problems come when you come to sell the house.
Yeah.
Conveyancers ask for all the documentation. You haven't got it, and then
But there are even cases where people do extension. They have a builder, and they do the excavation too close to the neighbor, so the neighbor extension get affected and partially collapse.
yeah,
That's why
no
I get
party
in.
wall agreement and stuff.
Yeah, but that's where I get involved sometimes. Do the survey report because they need to go to court.
All right.
So I prepared a document and a report a month ago. Someone did an extension. The two gardens had a difference in level, but the contractor did dig other 2 meter, and the neighbor
So
partially
you do
collapsed.
get involved in disputes?
Yeah, up to a limit, yeah.
Okay, I've got another job for you.
Thank you. It depends. I'm not registered for a dispute case where there is someone that, I don't know, pass away.
No,
or-
this
but-
particular one is
yeah.
a roof and it's leaking. Anyway, I'll tell you about it after.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's causing damage.
Yeah.
A party wall surveyor doesn't want to touch it because it's part. Anyway, yeah. I won't go into the nitty gritty of it all, but yeah. So if people want to get hold of you, SCB Structures, how do we get hold of you?
Yeah, website.
Yeah.
So on Google, SCB Structures. So the spelling is Sierra Charlie Bravo Structures.co.uk, or send an email to info@scbstructure.co.uk, or I can leave my mobile number, that is 074 26742331, and they can just give me a ring, send me a text or an
WhatsApp
email,
is-
or WhatsApp. Yeah.
Before
If I can't pick the phone, it's gonna be
before
redirected.
5 p.m.
Yeah, usually we are between 9, 5:30, 6 p.m. If I'm busy in meetings or survey, I just basically forward to the office. Someone from the office is gonna give a call.
Thanks, Luca, for
Thank
popping
you, Lee.
along and educating us all.
Thank you, Lee.
It was very interesting about the combination of clay and tree and how disastrous that can be. This is Lee of Ashton Lee Surveyors, the host of Ask the Surveyor podcast. See you on the next episode.